Welcome to Business Basics Friday. I'm Safietou Russell, CEO and founder of SDR Consulting Inc. Business Basics Friday is a weekly session catered to providing valuable information to business owners. We have a variety of guest speakers that come in to educate you in the many areas that you manage for your business. As far as my background, I've been in the industry 20 years and I'm a CPA and enrolled agent. I also have my master's in taxation and based in New York. So SDR is a virtual firm and we service clients all throughout the US, mostly working with business owners, helping them with business startup and business cleanup services. So at the end of the session, we will open up for questions. So if you do have some questions for our guest speaker or in general for tax accounting and legal related general information, feel free to post it in the comments. If you're here on Clubhouse, you can feel free to go ahead and use the back channel to send a question through there and I'll read it out loud. All right, so we're going to go ahead and get started. So it's definitely my pleasure to introduce our guest speaker for today. So Miss Amanda Gayle Esquire is joining us and she's going to cover the topic of the benefits of protecting your business. So Amanda, the floor is yours. Go ahead and take it away.
Thank you so much, Safietou. I appreciate it. Thank you for having me. Good afternoon, everyone. So I am Amanda Gayle. I am a business attorney, a business and trademark attorney. I help entrepreneurs set up their businesses, protect them in various ways, including through contracts, as well as protecting their intellectual property, which includes copyrights and trademarks. My firm is Gayle Law Firm, PLLC. We are a virtual practice. However, we do a lot of our work with clients throughout the country with some areas of our practice, such as contracts and business entity formation. We can actually do throughout the country, but a lot of our contract work is New York based, but trademarks, if you have a business and you're anywhere throughout the country, we can assist you. Before I begin, I just want to issue a quick disclaimer and just let you guys know that this is not legal advice. This is for informational purposes only. I will be discussing a myriad of topics. However, understand that this does not create an attorney-client relationship between the two of us. In order to do that, please consult my website, www.agaylelaw.com, to set up a consultation, and we'll begin the process from there, okay? Or you can email me at agayle@agaylelaw.com. All right, so we're talking business basics today. Business basics covers a wide range of different areas when you're thinking about starting a business. There are lots of things that you need to do. However, oftentimes I find from my work with clients, they start their businesses first and then worry about getting everything formalized later. That is actually a no-no because there are a lot of potential pitfalls that you can fall into when you do it that way. You want to make sure that your business is protected legally before you enter into it. Whether you sell t-shirts, whether you are a cosmetologist, whether you're providing another kind of service, you want to make sure that if there's any kind of liability exposure, you yourself are protected from it and that you are setting up an entity that's separate from yourself to make sure that your personal assets are protected. So that is one of the areas and services that my firm provides to clients. We set up business entities. For a lot of new businesses, they choose the LLC and they may do so because there is limited management restrictions. It's pretty easy to set up unless you're in New York. Because New York actually does require a two-tiered process, which a lot of other states do not. It's a bit antiquated actually, but New York requires that not only do you set up the LLC by filing articles of organization with the state, you must also publish that business in order for the business to actually be official. Publication is another two-step process where you actually, it's a bit like a advertisement in a newspaper where you're actually telling people via newspaper that your business is actually in use, that you're actually using it, that it's active. So in New York, that's the process. However, once you do that, your business is formal, you're able to go ahead. Now you can set up your business bank accounts. You can do whatever else you need to do. Another step that people often actually bypass when they're setting up their businesses is they fail to Sorry, that's New York City. Another step that they bypass is they actually fail to set up any kind of operating agreement, and that's for an LLC. If it's you as a solo person, you still want to have some kind of roadmap to account for what would happen if this happens, right? What would happen if that happens? How the business intends to operate, what the purpose of the business is, how the business is actually being funded. All of that information would be included in the operating agreement. It's important if you're a sole LLC, a sole member LLC. However, it's more important if you're a multi-member LLC. It's unfortunate. However, you have seen, and we see it in the news all the time, a lot of friendships go sour because people get into business and they actually don't have any kind of formal documentation to support how they intend to proceed with their businesses. So that's something that people kind of forget, that we want to make sure that we are putting into place, right? So that's another way that you can protect your business. And similarly, if you are filing a corporation, which is really reserved for special businesses that intend to seek investments and are working on a larger scale and are thinking about issuing stock. Those are the kind of businesses that may want to consider a corporation. However, it requires a discussion with myself or a tax professional like Safietou before you actually do that. But for that as well, you would want to make sure that you have your bylaws, and you would come to your attorney for that to kind of iron out all of that documentation and how the shareholders are going to operate, when the meetings are going to be held, what constitutes a quorum, all of these fun and exciting things that you may have heard about on Succession or something. So those are the things that you need to consider when we're thinking about business entity formation. And the reason, again, that we do that is because we want to make sure that we're separating our personal assets from our business assets. In the event, really, if you were ever sued, if you were ever pursued in litigation, you want to make sure that that house that your aunt left you in 1992 isn't going to be compromised, right? Because that is separate from whatever money that you've accumulated and accounted for your business. But you can only really seek to do that if you've actually formalized your business. So that's one of the protections that we want to consider. Next, let's talk about contracts. I hear every day people, again, they say, hey, my friend had a great idea for a business. We just decided to go, and start it. I put in some money, they put in some money. Hey, did y'all have a contract? No, we didn't have a contract. I trust him. That's my man, 50 grand since the third grade. And oftentimes that comes back to bite people in the butt, because one, the reason that we actually draft contracts in the first place, right, is for clarity. You may have one understanding of something, and another person may have a different understanding of something. And when there becomes a conflict is when we have a problem. And if there is nothing actually in writing to support whatever the original agreement was, the mutual understanding, then you end up in court. Then you're missing out on money and you lose your friend, right? So you want to make sure that you do whatever you can do to get all of those details in a formal contract so that there is no cause for confusion, everything is clear, and you feel protected, right? It's like it's your insurance, really. And unfortunately, there are a lot of people who, hear that you want to put something in paper and they go, oh, you don't trust me. It's not about trust, it's about clarity. It's about doing things the right way. It's about personal security, right? I want to feel comfortable. I want to feel protected. And again, we're talking about, boundaries, so to speak, right? If that's what you need to feel comfortable going into business and that other person is against that, you should strongly consider not doing business with them. So you want to get that in a contract. And I know that people are using a number of alternatives to lawyers to draft their contracts. However, I don't advise that for a number of reasons. One, because a contract that you Googled online, one, you may think that that's what you need, but as a non-attorney, you don't really know that that's actually something that's going to benefit you. Also, Google contracts are things that other people have drafted for their specific circumstances, and they may not be yours. You don't also understand how each of the clauses within that Google contract operate. So that's another concern. And also, there may be things that are missing from that contract that if you had told your lawyer, me, I would have made sure was in there, right? So I speak to my clients. Certainly my clients don't know exactly what it looks like within a contract, but my understanding of the law and its application, I would be able to include specific clauses that I know that will protect them. Okay, so that's another protection that we talk about. And then within my practice, we also spend a lot of time talking about intellectual property. And we've seen it play out day in, and day out, and day in and day out, that people are often starting businesses, not doing any kind of trademark search. And let's talk about what a trademark is. A trademark is a brand identifier, right? It's how people associate you with your business, right? How they identify you and connect that with your business, right? You want to make sure that when you're doing that, when you're creating a trademark, there is no likelihood of confusion between your business and another business. But also you want to make sure that once you actually start the business, it's not someone else's name, and that you actually have full right to use that trademark, right? So what happens oftentimes is people start a business, they come up with a random name, some names which aren't even good, but we'll get into that. But they come up with a random name without finding out if it's even available, and they run with it. Cut to 5 years later, they've built a business, they have a strong following, and then they get hit with a cease and desist from someone else saying, hey, this is actually my business name and you don't have my permission to use it. Please stop right now. Now that's a warning, right? That's the cease and desist. That's the warning. If you don't adhere to that cease and desist, you run the risk of also being sued. And what could happen if you're sued is not only do you have to stop using the name, but the money that you've made by using that person's name, that person's registered trademark, they can come back and take all of it from you. So it's really in your interest, your best interest, to protect your business name up front. I tell clients, a lot of people start with an LLC if they even start there, but a lot of people start, oh, I'm going to get an LLC. I actually tell my clients, and you guys are not my clients, but you can be, to do a trademark search first. We start with the trademark because a lot of people tend to name their business after whatever they seek to use as a trademark without even finding out if that name is available. So before you actually go in and make the huge investment in, getting all these products and becoming married to this name, let's first start by making sure that it's available. And then just kind of circling it back, kind of so that some of these concepts are gelling with you guys. Unfortunately, in the media, we actually see real life illustrations of these issues play out, right? So right now, I actually saw a recent post from Morris Day. If I'm not really aging myself because I'm young, but I like old music. And Morris Day and the Time, he's actually saying that Prince's estate, RIP to Prince, the legend, are actually barring him from using that name, right? He intended to trademark it, and they don't want him to use the name anymore, pursuant to an agreement that they're saying he had with Prince in 1982. That's a major issue. So that's actually an issue where we see the contract issues as well as trademark issues kind of come together and become an issue, right? So if you had this agreement, is that now a binding agreement? That would be up to a court for them to decide. But again, you want to make sure when you're starting something, Morris Day and the Time is a different brand from Prince's brand, right? However, they work together. But allegedly in this agreement, they said that Prince would own the name. It's very important that ownership is accounted to you when you're starting a business, right? You want to make sure that you are the registered trademark owner. And that's something that you would talk to your attorney, me, about, and we can establish for you. I think that kind of wraps it up. I don't want to go beyond my allotted time. So I'll shoot it back to you, Safietou, and we can start to take some questions.
Perfect. Thanks, Amanda. And that definitely was a great overview of the basics and certain steps to take ahead of time. I'm sure you see it all the time in your space, and we do as well here in the accounting and tax world, that people have started their business. They've just, got off the ground running, and the name stuff, all that you mentioned, and then they, start using their personal bank accounts, or they start setting up EINs for the wrong entity structure, et cetera. So it's all about the preparation, and it's so much it's more cost effective to pay up front and invest in doing it right than to clean it up at the end. Now we can help you clean it up, right? Both of us,
But it'll
but
cost you.
it'll cost you. Exactly. Now I think one thing, a lot of things you shared were great information, and people, it's kind of like a fine line. People will come to me about different entity types, and I can definitely talk to you about it from a tax perspective, the differences, but you're going to definitely want to speak to an attorney, especially if you have assets, because I can't, give guidance on that. But I think a lot of, there's always a social media trend, right? Right now, there's a trend of S corps. Before that, it was a trend of LLCs,
Mhm.
and what I just want to clarify is that LLC is more popular, except that it's very expensive in New York, like you mentioned. But an S corp is actually not a structure, right? An S corp is an election that you make for an existing structure. So you're either an LLC first or you're a corporation first, then you make an S election. So I wanted to make sure we clarify that. When you want to go set up an S corp, you first got to still sit down and decide which entity type makes sense, and you want to talk to a lawyer about that, and you want to talk to an accountant, tax accountant, to understand the differences between the two, right? The other thing is LLCs, corporations can give you that protection if you do the right thing with them, right? Amanda, you want to kind of expand on that as far as like commingling and things of that nature?
Yes. So these business entities, they can actually only offer you the protection if you treat them the right way, right? So if you are still treating your business as though it's your, personal account, then you're going to run into trouble, right? And the same reason that you actually started it, which is to separate yourself from your personal assets, you're not going to really get that benefit, right? Because you do it in the event of litigation, right? So if you in fact are sued, they can definitely pursue you if they find out that you're not actually treating your business as a business, right? For example, if you are getting pedicures, I'm gonna use the same pedicure example that we used the other day, but if you're getting pedicures through your business account, I don't really know how you can consider that a business expense. Sure, your toes got to look right, but if you're not, you're not a foot model. That's not a business expense, right? And what we call it is piercing the corporate veil. So they would seek, whoever is opposing counsel, whoever's coming against you, they would seek to actually pierce your corporate veil and saying they don't deserve this corporate protection because they're not treating themselves as a business. Also,
Abs-
piercing the corporate veil can also, in addition to commingling, piercing the corporate veil can also become an issue if they find out that you are being reckless in your business, right? So if you're not actually taking the steps to make sure that people are being served well, right? If you're doing anything shady, and that, we see a lot of that play out when we're talking about the major corporations, and they find out that the CEO is hiding money here and doing this and all kinds of shady things and fraud and all of that. Again, your corporate veil may also be pierced because, again, you don't get this benefit if you're not treating it right.
Wow, never heard that one. Thank you for that. And yeah, it's just the simple things. Of course, when you start your business, you don't have your bank account yet, so there's going to be some personal account used for your business transactions. But as soon as you get that entity established, you should have that bank account going. You should start that separation right away. You should get your bookkeeping in place. All those things to set yourself up as a real business. It doesn't matter if you're, just getting started and you only made, $200, it's still the same rules apply. And a $200 sale, God forbid, could lead to $1 million lawsuit, right? So nothing changes in terms of your liability. And so that was a good point. Thank you for sharing that.
Yeah.
And go ahead. Anything you want to add?
I also did want to add back to the contracts, right? So people see sometimes there are contracts, right? But if you don't take the time to read your contract, have an attorney review the contract. And personally, I like my clients to be on the giving end of a contract, right? To be offensive as opposed to defensive for the sports fans. I'm not, but y'all are. So, because when you're in that position, then you have the opportunity to say, well, this is everything that we want. When somebody gives you a contract, the most you can do is kind of like pivot around it and say this and this, maybe add a couple things, but we can't rewrite that contract if they're the ones that gave you the contract, right? And you only hire your attorney and only want to pay your attorney for review services, right? So that's one thing. But when you're getting the contract, like we saw, people were talking about Diddy a lot this week, and I'm conflicted about it. But I would say, I'll just speak for 12-year-old Amanda. 12-year-old Amanda thought that Diddy was Puff Daddy, was like the smartest, most enterprising, just amazing guy. And I guess that's, what resulted in me becoming a business person myself, right? But I just respect people who are business minded. And to me, he was just such a hustler and he grinded so much. Cut to modern day, and the girls are not happy with the fact that it seems that all of his artists don't have any money. And they're not they're not being paid, they're not being compensated, their careers didn't sustain themselves. And a lot of them, I think, who was it, Chopper? Might have been Chopper, it might have been Fred. No, it was one of the Day 26 guys. I think it was Willie, who said that, the contracts weren't good. And this happens a lot with recording artists, but it happens with everybody who don't take the time to actually read their contracts. In the music business in particular, though, a lot of people, and I think we saw this with the Migos, they were complaining about the fact that the attorney that represented the label also represented them. However,
Conflict.
that was able, conflict is like blaring, right? It's like major conflict. And, attorneys, some play fast and loose with that. And, they'll have a client sign a dual representation waiver, but I wouldn't. You want to make sure that your attorney is only working for you. Anytime somebody is dual representing whatever, they double dip it. They get in two sets of money, right? And when they do that, you may have a concern, and a rightful concern, that they're not only looking out for your best interest. And you always want your professionals to be looking out for your best interests.
Makes sense.
Again, the contracts, this is not advice because I'm not your lawyer, but you should hire me to be your lawyer. And when you do, I would tell you to be very cautious about that, and we would talk even more. There's a lot more I could say, but Facebook
No,
Live.
I appreciate what you are sharing, because that's what we're here for. Get the information while you can. If you have a question, go ahead and post it before we wrap up.
Yes.
Otherwise,
go ahead.
Otherwise, you got to set up that paid consultation.
There you go. That's where I was going. Thanks, girl. Yes. Or if you do have a question and maybe, you don't want to ask it now, you don't have the time, you want to take some time and gather your thoughts, please shoot me an email at agayle@agayllaw.com, or visit my website. The calendar is open for your convenience. Schedule the appointment whenever it is available for you to do so. And we'll have a long, in-depth conversation about your particular needs and your interests.
We do have a question here on Clubhouse. I'm going to
Clubhouse.
attempt to read it out loud because the volume may be low. But hi, Christina. Go ahead. How you doing?
Hello. Pretty good. I just have a quick question.
Okay.
I started an LLC as I was told to kind of protect my personal property.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
I just want to know if y'all can answer it. Is that the right thing to do, being a small business? It's just me type of deal. I started a business on my own, just kind of like fumbling, and I was making shirts.
Mm-hmm.
And then I was told, oh, you need a business license. So I went and got a business license. Then started doing the state taxes and all of that stuff. Started filing my taxes and everything.
Mm-hmm.
But I just feel like I don't want to be missing an I dotted or a T crossed.
Got it.
There's no book to follow, steps to follow type of deal.
Right.
That I had.
Right.
And I just want to make sure I'm doing the right thing.
Could you hit?
Legally.
Legally. Could you hear that, Amanda? I'll go
I,
ahead and I'll
I,
rephrase it.
well, no,
Yeah,
I heard her. I
you
heard
got
her.
it. Okay, good.
Yeah, thanks. So thank you for that question, Christina. And I understand, and I completely respect what you're saying. And don't feel alone in that. A lot of business owners, a lot of people that come to me, they say the exact same thing. I don't know what I'm doing. One thing that you did say and kind of said a couple times that struck me was, I heard that I should do this and I heard that I should do that. Where'd you hear that?
Who'd you get that advice from?
People that had businesses already, like other small business owners.
Mm-hmm. I mean, okay, so while I think it is great to be in community, and that's what, my firm is building with the entrepreneurs that we work with, and, making sure that there are opportunities for them to fellowship. And now that COVID is kind of easing up a little bit outdoors safely, we'll be able to do that a bit more, because I do think that there's something to be said about having other people who are having a similar experience to talk to about those things, but also always speak to your own professional. What people do when they're sharing information about whatever they've decided to do is they're playing the telephone game. So maybe they got it right when they heard it the first time, or maybe they didn't, but you don't really know, because you don't know where they got the information from, right? We don't know that that person is doing anything correctly, right? So we don't want to necessarily get information, especially when it comes to legal advice, from non-lawyers, right? Or tax advice from non-tax professionals. We want to make sure that we're going directly to the source, and also that we have that relationship directly with this. As important as it is to be in fellowship with other entrepreneurs, you also want to have your own direct relationship with your own professional, right? So I would say still reach out, establish a relationship. I'm happy to help and talk to you more about your specific needs. But what I heard from your question was that you got an LLC so that you could protect your personal property, but you also have a business.
Yes.
Is it separate from your LLC, or is it all? Are you running your business through your LLC?
My LLC is my business, like Gifted Hands by Chrissy LLC. That's my business name.
Okay, great. So it sounds like you're okay. I would love to talk to you more about more of your needs and more of what's going on. If you want, and I'll make this the exclusive, exclusive.
Uh-oh.
Consultations, my consultations are $150 for all of the people that are listening here on your live, Safietou, as well as on my IG. I will take $50 off of the consultation. So in your notes, when you set up the appointment, just write Facebook Live in the notes, and that'll be your coupon code, and we'll take that off with the billing department. Okay, but I'm happy to talk to you more about that, and make sure that you have direct relationships so you don't have to play telephone game.
Okay.
Perfect. Okay. Thank you. Thank you for your question.
Yes. And then let me just add, we talked about this a little bit on my live. I'm really having a hard time with the consultants and the business coaches and
Got it.
the non-professionals giving advice to these people, because where are they when the people really have like a question, when they really need help, when they really need information? I saw a marketing woman giving advice about how people should name a business. That was completely wrong, because that's not going to get you a trademark. But she had like 100,000 followers, and I was like,
be careful.
I mean, did you buy them? I don't know. But I respect the hustle of everyone. I do. I really, really do. But there's still something to be said about credentials and people who've taken the time to study these particular issues and be able to give that advice and be a resource within our own communities, right? I think that the blind trust of people who don't have the accountability that we have to have is problematic. And I think, we as a people should consider that a little bit more.
I totally agree with that. And being that we're in tax season, March of 2022, heavy in it. Speaking of accountability, what some things that I've come across is people who've gotten the returns prepared by people, random people. Number one, the return isn't signed off on, no accountability. right? If they fudge the numbers, if they made stuff up, they're not responsible. Well, they're not responsible anyway, because you're responsible ultimately for your return. But with that sign off, it's at least some type of accountability to that tax return. If you go pay somebody to prepare your taxes and your return says self-prepared and that person's name is not there, that is fraud. Okay, that person is supposed to have a P10, have, identify with the IRS as a preparer. So that's a red flag, and there's no accountability there. And the same thing with business. If your accountant is the only person that knows anything about your business, you don't know what type of structure you have, you don't know if you're an LLC or a corporation, you don't know if you made an S selection, you don't know if you have a trademark, you have to take accountability for your own business and responsibility.
And it bothers me when somebody reaches out to me and they try to save $1. I'm all for saving $1, but what you don't know is, me as an attorney, I'm pretty affordable. I'm not going to charge you $10,000 for a trademark. I'm going to charge you $1. I'm not going to charge you $10,000 for a trademark, right? And also, where people express certain hardships, I do consider that, right? And I have had a few clients who've had to do payment plans. I don't per se offer it across the board anymore, but I do consider people's financial circumstances if I know that they're being sincere and that they really want to do something, right? They're really trying to make the investment in their business. I respect that, and I can work with somebody that's doing that. But don't cut corners and hire somebody who's not in the business of really doing that work. I'm not going to talk about this one particular company because, but
we know they're out there. Yeah.
They're out there. And I just hate when people have worked with them or any data company, I'll just say that, who are non-lawyers but file trademarks. But they come to me after and they're like, well, I don't know what I paid for. I've literally had people like, oh, I paid them. I bought this package from them and my trademark's not done. We got an office action and now I don't know what to do. And so what, but they don't know what a trademark is. They don't know what class they filed in. They don't know why they filed that class. They don't know what the specimens were. They don't know if they need, they really did a search, what kind of search. They don't know anything. And it upsets me because it's like, you don't want to take advantage of people. So I don't want people to want themselves to be taken advantage of. You know what I mean? Like, don't put people in a position to take advantage of you. Ask the questions. And if those people are not available for, you to ask questions to, you probably shouldn't hire them.
Absolutely.
My clients can call me up, email me. We do these every once and again. I'm available. I think that that's important, to be accessible to people. I definitely want all businesses to grow, and I want all the owners and the founders to be super successful, but I think you should always be available to your clients.
Yeah, makes sense. Definitely accessible and within boundaries, of course, right? Because one thing clients may not realize, and even us, we're clients of someone else, right? Of someone else as well. Our emergency is not their emergency, and in tax season right now, or if you're dealing with the IRS notices, because we help with resolution as well, the IRS has garnished your bank account. Just know that when you're at that point where it's like now or never, there were steps that led up to that. So if you ignore the small things in the beginning, the trademark action or, the cease and desist, like there were things leading up to that could have, prevented you from getting to that point. So just bear in mind with your professionals that you're working with, especially if it's in the middle of like a busy season, for taxes, for example, that we want to have quality work, quality time with each of our clients. So just keep that in mind and definitely give some grace to your professionals. We're still coming out of a pandemic. A lot has gone on in the last 2 years. So definitely keep yourself accountable, be responsible, ask the right questions, work with the right professionals. If you don't feel a good vibe, go with your gut, right? Right. Perfect. All right, Amanda. I mean, this has been great. We can talk, I'm sure, for another hour.
I have so much I want to tell the people. I'm trying to.
I know. We only just a little bit. But we're gonna close out, and I'll just share my contact information and wrap up in case anyone joined us late. Amanda, I'll have you recap as well. And we will not be here next Friday. It's the weekend before March 15th deadline, and my daughter has a dentist appointment. So join us the following Friday on the 18th for our next Business Basics Friday session. Every mostly every Friday at 12 o'clock Eastern. Tell a friend. This will also be brought into my podcast, SDR Business Basics, and also the YouTube channel. So Safi Russell, founder and CEO of SDR Consulting, Inc. You can find us on social media at SDR Consulting. That's S as in Sam, D as in David, R as in Robert. SDRconsultinginc.com, and phone number is 516-255-6603. We help businesses with business startup as well as business cleanup. So consultations from a tax and accounting perspective, bookkeeping setup, tax preparation, tax planning, and then bookkeeping cleanup, tax resolution, back tax filings if you've gotten a little too ahead of yourself and need to backtrack. So that's a little bit about us. Amanda, go ahead and share your info and we'll wrap up.
Thank you. Thank you guys for being here. I hope you got a lot out of today. If you are looking for me to provide more information to you, please go to my website and set up a consultation at www.agaylelaw.com. That's AGAYLE law.com. You can also email me at agayle@agaylelaw.com, or add me on social media at agaylelaw. AGAYLELAW. And if you're following me on any of the social media platforms, I use Instagram the most. There is a major announcement coming soon. I was hoping I'd be able to break it for you, but I can't. I was going to break it here first, but it's still in the works, and it's really going to be amazing. And it's going to be something that really kind of reinforces some of the things that I said today, and it's going to help a lot of business owners. So Christina, for all those who may have some concerns about their businesses, this is definitely going to get you on the right track and give you the information that you need. So that is going to be dropping soon. Please follow me on social media to see the updates, but also schedule that consultation if you're ready today.
Perfect. I'm excited. I'm going to look out for it now too. So thanks again, Amanda, for the time today. Thank you for taking time to be a guest speaker and share that knowledge and years of information that you have. And so everyone, stay safe, be well, enjoy the nice weather coming up soon here in spring of 2022, and see you in 2 weeks. Take care. Bye-bye.
Absolutely. Bye, guys.